Greetings. I'm Lucinda Main, Executive Vice President and CEO of the American Association of Colleges of Pharmacy and a proud Research America board member. I have the honor of introducing 5 individuals who, by answering one question each in approximately 3 minutes, will make you think in new ways about the ingredients that together can produce urgently needed, broadly shared medical and public health progress. Our nation can innovate faster. COVID-19 is proving us, and we can engineer a healthcare system that works better for everyone. I promise that Vic Dorita, Jed Manocherian, Patty Brennan, Peter Pronovost, and Gopal Khanna will make you think, give you hope, and lend you inspiration. Let's get started.
Well, that's a good question, and what gives me the most hope as I think about the future is interesting because we're in a pretty challenging present right now, and so how can we think positively or hopefully about the future? And the way I think about that is one of the things that we've seen with this virus is, and that's how I think about the present, the virus as a microbiologist, but it's brought us together. And as scientists and researchers, we thrive on collaboration, not just in our research, but in how we convey research and how we do education. And I think what the virus has done is shown us how collaboration and how collaborating together brings us to new levels of understanding and knowledge in ways that would never happen without collaboration. So it's accelerated our ability to be innovative. It's helping us get public information out much faster. We're working on countermeasures more aggressively. We're collaborating. We're collaborating in research. We're collaborating in teaching, and it's exciting to see that. At the American Society for Microbiology, the way this collaboration looks is we're bringing together clinical lab professionals who are ensuring the availability and accuracy of COVID testing. We're also bringing together scientists on a curated site where anybody who wants to see the most up-to-date, vetted, relevant science can find it in one place. And this has had tremendous response from the community. We're bringing together leaders and experts who haven't been together in the past to talk about this problem and to see about solutions. Scientific voices, scientists' voices are being heard in newspapers, talking to the public. And this is a great obligation and a wonderful responsibility that we have to educate the public. And this is happening through collaboration. Now look, challenges remain. I'm not that optimistic that we don't still have challenges in front of us. This virus has laid bare disparities in public health, the legacy of bad decisions in our history, and I'm optimistic that we'll recognize those disparities and those challenges as other challenges that we can collaborate on to confront. The spirit of collaboration about which I'm so optimistic teaches us that inclusive diversity that brings in all voices is the best way to innovate, the best way to create, and the best way to solve. So I'm hopeful that we'll continue to come together to meet challenges after COVID the way we've confronted the challenges from COVID. And that's what I'm optimistic about.
I am honored Research America has asked me to answer a question of critical importance. What is one step our nation can take to achieve faster medical progress? The answer is to double the budget of NIH, the National Institutes of Health, within 10 years. The cost is billions, but the return will be trillions, and it is priceless to patients and their families anxiously awaiting cures. No federal expenditure has a better return on investment and does more to create jobs and grow wealth. Doubling of NIH over 10 years would be a return to the historical rate of growth between World War II and 1990. In the past 5 years, the NIH budget has increased by $11.6 billion, or 38.6%. Yet the funding levels are not even close to adequate to capitalize on all of today's great scientific opportunities. There are no incurable diseases, only diseases that have not been cured yet. It is only through the tremendous promise of science that we will find solutions to the most intractable diseases and conditions and rein in healthcare costs that are on an accelerating path to bankrupt the federal government. NIH is also our first line of defense from pandemics and threats of bioterrorism. NIH and its research grantees have swung into action to help the nation find vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics for COVID-19 at a record pace. The next great threat to our nation and our economy looms large as the massive, aging, baby boomer generation confronts the costs associated with chronic diseases. In 2019, total federal healthcare spending was $1.2 trillion, and it is projected to skyrocket to $4 trillion by 2040. With so much at stake, NIH should receive increases in funding commensurate with the impending health and financial crisis. Yet the federal government allocates a mere 1% of its budget towards medical research. There is no higher calling than to improve the well-being of others, and there is no single action that will do more to advance our nation and improve the human condition than doubling the NIH budget. Nothing less than the health and wealth of our nation is at stake. There are too many patients to be patient. Thank you.
I'm Patty Brennan, the Director of the National Library of Medicine. Our nation is accelerating medical progress by bringing technology and health together. Now, you may be surprised to think of the National Library of Medicine as an engine for accelerating discovery and medical progress. At the National Library of Medicine, we conduct research into the methods that acquire, preserve, and disseminate health information. We also provide access to large repositories of literature, genomic data, and of biological information and make them available worldwide. Many of our resources, such as PubMed Central, clinicaltrials.gov, or GenBank, are used millions of times a day. The federal investment in the National Library of Medicine is accelerating medical progress by ensuring open and persistent access to health information and health data. We apply systematic ways to preserve in perpetuity this information. Through PubMed, our bibliographic repository, and PubMed Central, our collection of full-text literature articles, we provide a platform for scientists and scholars to share information and to make new discoveries. We also make this available to anyone who wants to explore this information. It's a sound investment from the federal dollars to support patients, scientists, and society. We don't do this alone. We leverage public and private partnerships. A critical part of this is to build on our longstanding goodwill, bringing science and technological know-how to our partners across the federal government and across the National Institutes of Health. For example, as the COVID-19 pandemic unfolded this spring, the National Library of Medicine worked under the Public Health Emergency Initiative with the publishers and scientific scholarly societies to open the COVID-19 and coronavirus literature, making machine-readable articles available. We're also working with leaders in technology and academia to make this corpus of literature accessible for novel artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms to identify new knowledge that can help us end this pandemic. Another kind of partnership we have is, along with the NIH, we have worked with commercial cloud providers under the STRIDES initiative, Science and Technology Research Infrastructure for Discovery, Experimentation, and Sustainability. This allows us to put our high-valued genomic sequence data into public clouds, making it accessible to anyone who wants to bring their tools to interrogate these data and discover new relationships and maybe new cures. This use of commercial cloud resources to disseminate biomedical data not only improves its accessibility, but also provides a sustainable and proper stewardship strategy to make sure that we're using the most cost-effective ways to bring knowledge to the world. There hasn't been a discovery in the last 50 years that the National Library of Medicine hasn't touched in some way with its literature databases or its biomedical knowledge bases. we remain partners because our nation needs to continue to bring technology and health together to improve and accelerate medical progress.
Advances from investments in science are breathtaking. We have far greater ability to mend minds, heal hearts, and cure cancers. But it could be so much better. I call it the $1 trillion problem. You see, if we just applied what we know works, right now, we could save countless deaths, so much suffering, and over $1 trillion. Let me give you some examples. We know in helping people stay well, that is getting preventive services and cancer screenings, we're far from 100%, meaning people have cancers that could be prevented. In helping people get well, let's take diabetes. We know that only 40% of people are diagnosed. It's the same for heart disease. About half the people are on the right medicine. About 11% have their blood pressure, their glucose, and their cholesterol controlled, and over 80% have avoidable hospitalizations or ED visits. Or let's helping people get better. That is, if I have a chronic disease, is care coordinating with my primary care? It's probably about 10% is. Is what I'm getting recommended appropriate? Only a third of most procedures are, I have to cut this, about a third of almost any procedure aren't appropriate if you use rigorous scientific criteria. About a third of people are cared for in a setting that could be less costly and equally high quality. That is home rather than a skilled nursing facility, or home or a primary care office rather than an emergency department. You add all that up, it's $1 trillion problem. And we could solve it today if we made some investments. $1 trillion savings. How? By investing in implementation science or improvement science, or what we call the science of healthcare delivery. Healthcare delivery isn't an art. It's a science that draws upon economics, sociology, anthropology, informatics, epidemiology, biostatistics, clinical medicine, and wraps them all together to align many levers to move the needle in a big way. The agency that leads in this is the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality that's preciously underfunded. So if we wanted to, we could eliminate what might be the third leading cause of death right now, $1 trillion of avoidable healthcare spend, by simply applying what works.
The COVID-19 crisis has exposed serious gaps in our healthcare delivery ecosystem, making it abundantly clear that when it comes to investing in science and research, cure and care are two sides of the same coin. Each day, medical breakthroughs in the United States bring us closer and closer to cures and therapies for COVID-19, as well as for previously untreatable conditions such as cancer, Alzheimer's disease, and diabetes. The United States is the clear-cut world leader in biomedical science and research. And yet, when it comes to delivering those cures to patients, the United States has a serious problem. Even when we do see significant biomedical breakthroughs, the healthcare system must still guarantee that a patient receives the right treatment at the right time in the right setting. Too often, this simply isn't the case. Too often, our healthcare system fails to connect patients with the treatments and cures they need. For instance, studies show that people at high risk who regularly take statin medications reduce their chance of heart attack, stroke, or dying by 50%. However, a recent study found that 25% of high-risk patients never filled their first prescription, and another 25% never refilled their first prescription. This represents a fundamental breakdown in our healthcare system and has highlighted a huge pent-up demand for innovations in care delivery. We know biomedical innovators spend billions of dollars each year trying to get cures and treatments to those who need them. But we need health services researchers to provide evidence and find best practices for getting patients the right diagnosis and the right medications at the right time. The healthcare system must also do a better job preventing adverse events. Each year, an estimated 98,000 patients die from preventable medical error. In fact, my father died of preventable medical error a few years ago on Thanksgiving. diagnostic error, patient safety issues, and now hospital-acquired COVID-19 all represent major breakdowns in our healthcare delivery system. We need to recognize that science, research, and evidence-based practice improvement is imperative to fully realize the value of investments in biomedical research and breakthroughs. A cure for COVID-19 means nothing if a patient dies from medical error while receiving it. When healthcare delivery improves, patients gain the full value of medical research. That is why I believe Congress must make a substantial investment in health services research to guarantee that 21st century cures translate to 21st century care. And with COVID-19 testing our healthcare system like never before, now is the time for change.